The top 10 best-selling manga in Japan for 2025 has been revealed by Oricon. I wanted to go over the top 10 and discuss why each series made the top 10. At number 10 is The Fragrant Flower That Blooms with Dignity, with about 2 million copies sold. This year it has anime adaptation release, which a lot of fans of the series were excited for. And it was a very well done adaptation. And usually whenever a manga gets adapted to an anime, and people are fan of the anime, they tend to go back and buy old volumes. And the anime adaptation is probably one of the best romance anime that released this year, especially since it does not lean into the normal tropes of most romance anime, in the fact that the characters actually communicate and talk about their feelings for each other. I'm a fan of romance series, so it's very nice to see a romance manga in the top 10 again after not having one for a while. Hopefully next year it'll still be in the top 10. At number 9 is My Hero Academia with about 2.1 million copies sold. My Hero Academia ended last year, and there was only one new volume released this year. But that single volume had a couple extra chapters that were exclusive to that volume. And also, the anime was having its final season. And thanks to that, My Hero Academia still remains in the top 10. And I highly doubt it will be in the top 10 next year, since we will not have an anime, no new manga chapters, and I don't think we're going to get a movie. It was an amazing run for one of Shonen Jump's biggest property of the 2010s. At number 8 is The Apothecary Diaries with 2.2 million copies sold. The Apothecary Diaries got a season 2 this year, and the anime was fantastic. And for some people, it's in their consideration for anime of the year. If you have not started The Apothecary Diaries, either the manga or the anime, you should, because I think it's probably one of the best animes of the 2020s. At number 7 is Sakamoto Days with 2.34 million copies sold. Going into this year, I thought Sakamoto Days would be in the top 3 or 5 because Shonen Jump has been heavily promoting the series and is having an anime adaptation air this year. Unfortunately, the anime adaptation did not reach the amount of popularity I thought it would. It was still popular, but I was expecting more on the Jujutsu Kaisen type level. But regardless, it's Sakamoto Days did make the top 10, whereas a lot of series cannot say for themselves. At number 6 is Blue Box with 2.38 million copies sold. I am honestly surprised that Blue Box made it into the top 10 this year, but I'm honestly happy it is in the top 10 this year. It had an animated adaptation that started in fall 2024 and continued into winter 2025. It's a very good adaptation. It's another romance series, which I love to see. And this is the first time since technically Kaguya-sama that a Shonen Jump romance series was in the top 10. Anyways, big ups for Blue Box and another victory for romance anime. At number 5 is Kingdom with 2.4 million copies sold. Kingdom hasn't been a staple within the yearly manga rankings, along with one other series that everyone knows. As long as Kingdom has new volumes released, it will continue to be within the top 10. At number 4 is Blue Lock with 3 million copies sold. Some people may have thought that we'll see a dip in sales for Blue Lock thanks to the not so good adaptation of season 2. Blue Lock has established itself as a staple within his rankings, along with Kingdom and one other series that we'll talk about later. And next year, I think Blue Lock will probably be in the top 3, since next year is a World Cup year. And I can honestly see it being ranked number 1 if Japan does well at the World Cup. At number 3 is Dandadan with 3.5 million copies sold. This should not be a surprise for anyone since Dandadan had an anime adaptation air last year and season 2 aired this year. Some people may have thought it would be number 1 since it had a lot of old volumes people could have buy, but since the anime aired in the fall last year, a lot of people bought old volumes as that season was airing, so it did not count towards 2025's total count from manga volume sale. But regardless, this is a very good debut year in the top 10 for Dandadan, and I think it'll stay here for a while. At number 2 is Jujutsu Kaisen with 3.9 million copies sold. Jujutsu Kaisen ended last year, but it had 2 new volumes released, the final 2 volumes. And Jujutsu Kaisen volumes usually sell very well, so it's no surprise it's still in the top 3. Despite the manga ending, I still can see Jujutsu Kaisen being here next year, since we get in season 3 of the anime, and most likely it will lead more people to buy volumes to catch up to read the ending of the series. And finally, at number 1 is One Piece with 4.2 million copies sold. This is the first time that One Piece has been number 1 in the rankings since 2019. That was the year when Demon Slayer took the number 1 spot. Many people's king of manga is finally back on top of his throne, but I honestly don't think it'll stay number 1 next year because there's so many good manga out now. But I can still see a world where One Piece is number 1 again next year, depending on how things play out in Albath. But regardless, congratulations One Piece, you're finally back on top. In terms of predicting what's going to be debuting next year in the top 10, there's 4 series that I think are very likely to make the top 10. The first one is very obvious. It's a currently aired anime right now, at least as of when I'm recording, and that is Gotchi Akata. It is very popular right now. A lot of people love the series. And I honestly believe it will be in the top 10, no doubt about it. Next one is a manga that's going to have an anime adaptation air next year. A series that I think is one of the best in Shonen Jump right now, and that is Akane Banashi. A lot of mangaka who write in Shonen Jump have been hyping up this series, including Oda, and it had a lot of color pages, which are usually reserved for the most popular series or series Shonen Jump want to push a lot. And I think Akane Banashi has a chance to debut in the top 10. And last two are two series that are slowly building up hype. The first one is Kagurabachi, a series that started out as a meme, many people saying that the greatest manga of all time had the greatest anime adaptation ever after just one chapter of the manga. People were just joking about it because it was a generic Shonen Jump title. But as it turned out, it turns to be actually a good series, at least from what I've heard. I have not read any of Kagurabachi yet, but I will start reading it next year. And the final series I think has a potential debuting in the top 10 is Ichi the Witch, a series that I think is the best manga in Shonen Jump right now. I was hyped for this series because the art was done by the artist for Act Age, and the story was written by the author of Welcome to Demon School Irumakun, a series that I like personally. And so far, it has been very good. And I really feel that each of which has the potential to be one of Shonen Jump's biggest series. Maybe even reach levels that Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer had. But anyways, that is the top 10 best-selling manga for 2025 in Japan. Are you surprised by this list? Is there a particular series that you think should have made the top 10? Leave your opinions down in the comments section down below. Anyways, I have been D-Man, and I'll see you when I see you.